Newsfirst, Newsline.
A very good evening to you. You are watching Newsline. This evening too, we have an interesting guest in the studio. You know, we have been speaking about certain malpractices of the government, certain acts of corruption of this government, the former government, be it anyone who is in power. We have been able to talk to you about it and get the facts out there. Today we are going to talk to Mr. Amal Sulege, the Vice President of the Ceylon Cattle Farmers Association. Thank you, sir, for being here with us. You have been on several of our programs as well, talking about this particular project, the heifers, importation of dairy heifers into the country. At the outset, let's for a moment forget what we know about this project, and at the outset, can you give me a briefing about what this project is, as short as possible, so that we can move on from there?
Yes, Satranga. Now, I am actually by profession is a bicycle manufacturer, but I have a estate in which is in Muskelia. Now, the previous government, they advertised that they are willing to give us pregnant heifers, okay, from Australia. I had a kind of a large estate, but then I had less activities there.
Sure.
So I thought, okay, I looked it as an investment, because the government says they want investors. So it is a good thing to sort of find out what we can do with this project. So I made an application for 50, and they gave me 200. You see, the fact remains they were looking at numbers. Why they were looking at numbers? Actually, it was too late by the time that I realized it. They were looking at numbers to make they were marketing it. Not they were really giving us the genuine, the contents as of, as whether we should go in for investments like this. Because this is agriculture-based industry.
Right.
And it is not like, making bicycles, you see, because it's a different commodity. And also, I think 67 innocent guys, all are who had been actually having, some were having their own cattle at the as a homestead, rearing cattle, and some are actually freshers in the business, but they all were given a kind of a fairy tale story that these pregnant cows will deliver, next generation of calves. All are, actually original stuff. I mean, like the Frisian and Jersey cross. So, and expecting a yield of about 25 liters per day. And of course, they were all actually these were all marketing tools for them.
Sure,
you see, unfortunately, we realized it's a little late that all what they have promised us are not the truth, but it was all claims to sell as much as possible, these cows to the innocent farmers.
Mr. Surya, now, as you are also aware, I was able to sit at a press conference where this new project was discussed, the new importation of dairy farmers. Now, from what I know at this moment, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the previous project has been cancelled or amended, as was the word that was used by the officials at that press conference.
Yes.
And secondly, what we are told is that the second generation of heifers, not the first generation that will be imported, but the second generation of heifers will be available for dairy producers such as yourself.
Yes.
Now, my question to you is very simple. Now, the first problem that we are discussing right now happened because there was sort of a management issue.
Yes.
And according to what they claim, the people who took the heifers could not manage them well, and therefore there was an issue. That is what the government said. But if the heifers are to be fed 70% grass and 30% of other material, and if we do not have that capacity in the country, will there be any use of importing another 2,500 heifers into the country?
Yes, in the first place, now the cattle importation, whether it's really necessary to this country.
Right.
That's the first question that we must ask.
Correct.
You see, and what kind of cattle that we should have. I mean, in the first, the next question that we should, ask them, whether it should be a foreign breed or whether we should go for a you see local breed with a, you see regional, breed which is from, which you can import from Pakistan, Vietnam, or even from Brazil or India.
Sure.
You see, so then they are climatized. You see, and they are feeding systems and feeding types are also different, right? And we don't have to worry about giving more imported concentrates, right? So likewise, I think everything that they have planned did not, they did not have a feasibility, you see, report as such. So I don't think that it is necessary to import cattle right now,
Right.
except for the reason of breeding.
Right.
If they see for the reason of breeding, yes, there is a necessity. But the question is whether you need 2,500, you see, parent, stock.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that it is now the next generation can be made with artificial insemination, right? So there are a lot of gray areas. I mean, whatever these people do at that ministerial level,
Sure.
you see, there are a lot of gray areas. So that's why we all suffered. It's not that we did not manage the farms.
I understand.
Because spending $200,000 on a cattle, right, on a cow which was pregnant. I mean, they say in the first place, you cannot import pregnant cows. I mean, that is not a practice that is done in the world. Generally, it is not done. So if the ministry has made recommendations to import cows who were pregnant for 6 months, that means you have only another 3 months to make their delivery.
Sure.
Right? And their travel, I mean, their transport was done from port of Australia to Sri Lankan port of Trincomalee. And it took 28 days on a deck, if you can understand. I mean, they are actually, they have undergone a lot of stressful situations.
Definitely.
Right? So how do you expect them to deliver a good calf? So my calves, out of the 200 heifers, all of them died except one. So it's not only mine, you see. So all these stories about mismanagement is false.
Right.
I categorically, like to tell you, these are all false claims done by these people who are not under obligation to, do anything for the farmers, but they are under obligation to do something always for the corporate sector, the supplier, and the people who are involved in this.
Right. You bring us to an interesting point and a juncture, Mr. Surya. Now, we know that the government is now telling us that there is a plan,
Yes.
and that this plan is going to run until 2025. But from 2008 onwards, there have been talk of such plans in the country,
Yes.
and it ran up to the former government, where you have been a victim as well, and now we are at this juncture here right now. But this story doesn't start from the former government, it starts from 2008. Several officials who are in the capacity of making decisions with regard to such incidents in the country,
Yes.
especially in this particular project, are still holding key positions. And when you take a look at the numbers that are involved, has there been an increase? There has not been an increase, but the plan seems to be increasing in terms of the number of years. Now we are looking at 2025 as well, and we are in 2020. So this problem of a systematic error is highlighted here, isn't it, Mr. Surya? Because now when you take a look at it, you have invested a lot of money at this moment, and a lot of other people have done so as well.
Yes.
But the officials remain the same, the project remains the same, the number of years are extended as well. So this is disheartening, don't you think?
Yes, it is. That's why we are called the wonder of Asia. You see, everything happens not to the will of the, the recipients of, this project, whatever the commodity that we receive. It is because they are more, they are obliging towards the corporate sector, people who are supplying the commodity. So thereby, I mean, they also, as you've been pointed, you see this head of the projects, I mean, that person had been in this business for the last, from the inception, right? I
Since
would
2008.
say 2014. I'm sorry,
14,
not
right.
2008. I think the relevant ministry was Economic Development Ministry,
Yes.
of course, and then it restarted again in 2014. So she joined the ministry, same ministry, in 2014, and from that point, she has served for 5 ministers up to now, and this is the 5th minister, and she stands as a person who can only deliver what is not good for us, but for the company or the ministry or the people who are involved in the project. So, frankly speaking, I think there should be new people with a new vision. I mean, these people who are there now have mismanaged it, from top to bottom.
Right.
So, that matter we have enough evidence, right? Having evidence also, if they pinpoint, that the farmers are wrong and not accepting the faults that they have done. I mean, they have actually premeditated these wrongs. I mean, they have. I would point out some things that they might have. Anybody could foresee these things, right? For instance, I mean, if you see this contract, you see this is a contract signed in 2014.
Right.
Signed between the Ministry of Economic Development and the WELAD, which is called Rural Exports of Australia, and ministerial secretary, right, has signed, and on behalf of WELAD, the chairman has signed. So this is actually these set of papers signed in 2014, but still. This is these papers, they say, are still valid for a couple of, can be carried on for many years more.
Right.
But it doesn't say so. So you see, I mean, when we actually open up a tender for, international projects like this, I mean, there's a time period for everything. I mean, you cannot be carrying on with papers or documents that have been initiated in 2014
Sure.
for another 10, 15 years.
Definitely.
So that itself proves this is a corrupt, deal, and this deal must stop. And if you want another deal, because these are deals. I mean, in Sri Lanka, we know these are deals. I mean, going under the carpet most of the time, and then nothing happens to the people who are recipients, but everything goes well for the supplier and the people who are involved in the project. So this is a very sorry state of affairs.
Mr. Suryage, you seem very emotional about this, and I can understand it to a certain degree, because you have invested yourself in this project, and you said out of the 200 only one survived.
Yes.
When you're looking at a situation like this, and since you also carry with you this much of evidence and documents with regard to this particular project all throughout, from its inception in 2014, as you claim, have you looked at any legal methods or measures to be taken?
Yes, we have already. One thing that we did was when we sort of complained about this matter, the previous president, he appointed a commission, which is called the Presidential Commission, and for 6 months it was heard.
Yes.
And lots of experts who are presently in the job, as well as who have retired, they all came forward, and they said this is a project which has failed in this country. And it is not only the experts who said that; it's also the previous Auditor General.
Correct.
He said this is a failed project, and we should not carry on with this project,
yes,
and it should be stopped. Now these are, then unfortunately, these things happen in this country most of the time, that we seek justice, we see no light at the end of the tunnel. So this is the country that we live. So I repeat, you see. So we seek justice, and justice was almost meted to us by, the PCI. They thought this is a good case, and they were about to give the report and the ruling. Unfortunately, somebody put it under the carpet, and it is still not given to the people who came up and made that complaint. So that's another, I would say, regretful, matter that we must address in the near future. I'm appealing to the Honorable President. You see, there's enough evidence, and I have personally gone to court. The court has to hear it.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the date to sort of put forward my case.
Sure.
So likewise, I think there's enough evidence, right? And I don't know how these people can carry on like this, you see. And then this minister comes. The minister also promised us, when we met him, he promised us, he said, it seems that there's some malpractices in this whole exercise.
Right.
He said that very fairly and very clearly. And then he wanted a report from these, so-called directors who is always not having a report in hand, but they have everything in their office. So they take another maybe a couple of weeks at least to send a report. By that time, the corona, matter set in.
Right.
So we hope that we'll be properly compensated, right? The minister or anybody in any government, it's not the matter who the government is. It is important whether somebody has made a lot of malpractices, and then it's a sordid, deal, and the people who had suffered out of it. Any government should be able to sort of look into because we are indebted to the world now. We are indebted to the banks, right? And not, it is not couple of, rupees and cents. It is in millions.
Yeah.
So I, as a businessman, I also have over 100 million, loan hanging on my neck.
Sure.
But what about those innocent people in the villages? They have, sort of mortgaged their, whatever the properties they have. You see?
Yeah.
So I think it's time that we look at not to only resolve this case, right? But to look at the broader picture and look at the broader picture, and I hope the president will take proper action to remedy this situation.
Ms. Surya, with that, we had to go in for a quick commercial break. We'll be back right after this.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Welcome back to the show. You are watching Newsline. We are in discussion with Mr. Amal Suryage regarding the importation of dairy heifers into the country. We discussed heavily about this project, and I want to focus about the future in terms of where we will go with regard to this particular amended project as claimed by the government. Ms. Suryage, now, yes, an injustice has happened to you. Yes, there has been various documents to prove the same. And now the government says, as I said earlier as well, that this is an amended project, and there is a new sort of an outlook with regard to this project. And that is where we stand. Now, from this point onwards, what will your role be in terms of a person who has imported dairy heifers from the past project? Has there been any sort of an insurance claim that has been set up for you and for all the other people that have been victims of this particular incident? And in terms of getting involved with this new project, the 2025 project, where do you stand?
It's a good question that you ask us, where we stand. Now, insurance. This country has so many matters to address. The poor president has a lot of things in his hand if he wants to remedy the situation in this country or give the people back what they should have, because the people can, they can be happy if we have a level playground and everybody contribute towards giving what the people need, right? Not to their satisfaction, but at least allowing them the freedom to go about with their business. Now, here in this country, I mean, I'm going a little further than dairy. As you said, we have insured because the ministry wanted us to insure. Now, these insurance people, I mean, they're very big, organizations. They only pay until, a certain point is reached where they don't, make any losses. When their premium is covered, they don't pay anything at all any further. So our claims, most of our claims are not being paid. So this insurance matter also is like, all these people are taking us for a ride. So that's why I'm little anxious and agitated to to see that if the system does not go like the way it should be, right, then the people suffer. So I have my request to the authorities. Let's look at the system again. Why these people are actually, trying to make a penny of everything? Why are they so much conscious about only the gains? Why are they not paying what is due to the people? So, for that matter, I think somebody must, take firm steps that when we have a project like this, all angles are looked into, all loopholes are, sort of fixed, and then they must go for this project. But I don't think now, as it is, this project now they say they have not rectified the the loopholes or the project violations and all that. They have not even looked at changing the people. They are the same old people are saying that they are going to look at a different, doing a different vision, right? And they are saying that it is the contract will be abolished and then again reviewed and amended.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? How can you actually abolish a contract that has been done so many years ago? And after all, in 2018, the relevant secretary pays another, $11.8 million as an advance. So how can they? I'm sorry. How can they stop? How can they stop this? The project? I don't think so. So, if at all they are going to change the chapters of the project and then, reconstruct it to a new project proposal. For that matter, you have to have the blessings of the Australian government as well as the suppliers' blessings to sort of make those amendments. But I don't think Willard is actually almost at the bankruptcy, right? I mean, this is, you can go through the websites and find out for yourself, right? So the Australian government is not in favor of exporting any cattle to Sri Lanka anymore, because after going through what has happened at this the project that was done, so they are not very happy to carry on.
Sure.
Having said all that, I think it is we must give a fresh start rather than trying to do or revamp the whole thing, and then in the first place, at least they should compensate the people who have suffered out of this, right? And that compensation, or at least, I mean, if nobody wants money into their hand, right? They only want their bank, debts to be either taken over by the government right? Or to be sort of, the banks has to renegotiate the whole thing with us, and then if the government is not paying us, at least the people who have made the money out of this, the companies, they should because there is a there in this contract there's all a contingency allocation that is being made of 5%. So I think that retention money is somewhere. I don't know where it is. So they can pay out of that also. I mean, part of those compensation that we're asking for. So whatever said and done, I think total revamp is necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Suryage, for joining with us this evening and talking to us about this important project and several important factors that the general public should be aware of. And as Mr. Suryage and a lot of other experts claim, proper methodology should be adhered to and compensation should be looked into, and a total revamp of the project is what people like Mr. Suryage are requesting. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsline on this Friday evening, and we'll be joining you next week as well with an interesting guest to keep you updated about what is going on in our country. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Newsfirst, Newsline.